Hi, I'm Amity Worrel. Welcome to our Design 101. Today we're going to be talking about lighting, decorative lighting, the importance of lighting, and kind of our experience of how to help people with their lighting in their homes. Where we start when we start working with a client on a project, and that is with their existing architecture of their home and whether they've worked with an architect or not. There is some semblance of some windows, architectural or window openings or openings that are allowing light to come in that we need to work with. Ideally, they're beautiful and providing a lot of natural light, but when that isn't the case, it's our job to fill in. Two examples of, well, the one on the left is a project that we did where you can see how beautiful the space was with absolutely no lights on, just all the natural light kind of pouring into the space. And I just love this image on the right, just showing how beautiful an interior space can feel with a lot of natural light coming in. So if that's your condition, you're well set. That we actually added the windows on the left there into the back of their very dark house. And there was a skylight that was existing, luckily, and we kind of played up what we did on the bookcase to be celebrated by the natural light that was coming into the space. So another really important thing to take into account, and everybody has their opinions on this, but is color temperature and your lighting. This is an image of a space all lit with different color temperature bulbs. I think many of us would agree that the center is kind of where we want to land versus the very blue on the left. Again, for interiors, for home interiors, that is, versus very warm on the right, kind of in the center. So my personal favorite is 27 to 3000 Kelvin as the most comfortable and beautiful color temperature for an interior. So not daylight bulbs, but bulbs meant for interior. Another thing to think about is the different types of lighting that you're going to need. You're going to need task lighting for things like washing dishes. You're going to need decorative lighting because we're decorating. And then you're going to need ambient lighting to really fill in the shadows. So this is an example of a Hyde Park project we did many years ago, where we have all three of those kind of examples pulled out in this particular kitchen. Okay, another thing to think about, these is actually 2 bathrooms in the same house for a custom home that we did a few years ago, is the placement of things like sconces, particularly at a vanity. A lot of times the difference between a custom home and kind of a builder grade home is the placement of the light fixtures. So what we do when we're working with a client is we make the selection of the light fixture, then we go to the site, like you can see one of our designers here on the site, standing with a template of the light fixture, specified on the wall where it should be located, so the builder puts it in the right spot so you can actually see your face versus just shadows in the mirror when you're putting on makeup or brushing your teeth. So another really important factor is, where does that light go? Right now we're all familiar with this kind of desk lighting and getting the lighting red on our faces when we're doing a Zoom meeting, I know. But on the left is a project that we did a number of years ago, and here you can see we have both task lighting as the under shelf light, and it's also acting as an ambient kind of mood light, and there's natural light coming in and lighting above filling in the spaces. So you really need a multiple level of lights to kind of create the right mood for a space. And then this is just a beautiful floor reading lamp. So on the left is a mid-century house that had a very dark kind of den space that we really wanted to brighten up, but we didn't want to pockmark the ceiling with a lot of ugly can lights. So instead we ran lights along the beams that can be on a dimmer and go up really high and really light the room and make it feel open and fresh, or be turned off at night and sort of a moodier light coming in. And then on the right, that same project, we were looking at the task light in before. We had a really interesting architectural feature of the ceiling in this project, and so celebrating that with lights at the tops of the beams. So it's another thing to take into account when you're working on projects, is how to light the architecture. An example here of decorative lighting, a chandelier over a dining table, and there are standards about how high or how low to place those. People typically place them, again, too high, so you're going to want to check that, make sure that you're actually lighting your food in the room and the faces of the people around you. There are other ways to fill in light in the space without it all having to be from one source. So you want to kind of have a variety of light fixtures in your spaces to make it feel beautiful and decorative and light the spaces that you need and make sure there's not too many shadows. The example on the left, I just had to share. It's not a project we did, but I do love the different styles of lighting in the same room. So an ambient light over on the side, a task light for reading, and then in this image too, they have ceiling lights. I'm not a fan of can lights, except maybe in a kitchen or a laundry room. But I do love surface mounted lights, decorative surface mounted lights. And this is a great example of how to use surface mounted lights over cans. And then in the right hand image, just a beautiful living room that we did a few years ago. The client actually already had this beautiful floor lamp, and I just really love the translucency of it. It's just simply decorative, lighting the space. And then there are picture lights you can see there at the back that are shining down, creating, filling in the corners and creating a nice ambient light that gives a glow to the whole room. You can imagine at night. Task lamp in the kitchen, love this. I love a little lamp plugged into a kitchen. It's very humble. It's preferred over a lot of can lights flooding the space when you're in a historic home, which I think this one is an example of. And on the right is a project we did, just some beautiful floor lamps. And these are actually lambskin shades. So I think that's another thing to play with, is kind of the not just a plain old drum shade again and again, but something beautiful that gives a little bit of a color to the room. These are sort of a natural tone. Two projects we did, again, placement of sconces, really important on the left. You can barely see this one in the slide, but really important to get that sconce in the right spot. It looks like art there. You can imagine at night it creates a little pool of light just in that one little spot for a quiet moment. And then on the right-hand slide, a very handsome architectural sconce that really sets the tone for this gentleman's office that we did at a project on the east side. So I love this image on the left. To me, it shows all of the beautiful light coming in, which is a nice cool temperature, and then it's got the beautiful 2700 Kelvin lights coming from the ceiling and the under cabinets and reflecting off the wall. Really, really beautiful, warm space. And I love that balance of light, cool light on the left, warm light on the right, coming together to make a really happy interior space. And then a great detail I just don't want to forget to mention is lighting at stairs. People don't always think of putting the lighting down low where your feet are. It's a very commercial thing that does happen for safety reasons, but you can do it in your home too, and I think it makes a really beautiful finish out. Yeah. Okay, so then a really kind of interesting thing that I don't think people necessarily think of with lighting is it creates such a sense of invitation to people to cozy up in a room, and leads them and invites them to go to certain areas of a space. So you can imagine this little nook we created in a project in Travis Heights would be really beautiful, particularly at night. The light just kind of creates a little invitation to someone to come in, curl up with a book, and pull the curtain closed. And that's what a lot of task lighting can do, and sometimes ambient lighting is kind of, it's an invitation to enter a room. I love this image. This isn't a project that we did, but I love the texture of the wall. I love a low light, and especially in Texas when every room is so bright a lot of the time from all the natural light that we get from the amazing amount of sunlight we get here, is to kind of have a quiet room that is your unwind space, that's slightly underlit and sort of sexy and quiet and dark, and a place to retreat and maybe spend some time just listening to music before you go to sleep at night and unwinding. So I think this is a beautiful image of a room that really does that. Also, I think it's important to note for people that, a slightly underlit room doesn't have to feel dark. It can be moody and interesting, and anything you put in it that is kind of a lighter color or has more texture than the wall is really going to pop in a light room. So I think this is a good example of that. You can see the headboard really pops in this image. We're going to see a beautiful example of actually a bathroom that we finished pretty recently. The client was really concerned with natural light, really concerned with light in general. She has a skylight in there. She's got a glass door that leads to the outside with a lot of light pouring in, but she really wanted to keep it bright even at night. So having a mirror in that space really amplifies the light and expands it into all the corners of the room. So here's an example of a very sweet kitchen that we finished, gosh, about 4 years ago now, where I love the counterbalance of the very homey cabinet detail with the plates and the cups and the sweet little table mixed with the very simple, contemporary, beautiful, unexpected decorative light fixture hanging in the middle of that room. Just a beautiful balance. And a lovely dining room that we had nothing to do with, but I do really love that very simple light fixture, just lightly placing the lights where they need to be to fill the room with a little bit of light, and I think that room would be beautiful and magical at night. So thank you so much for your time today, and we look forward to seeing you next time at our next Design 101.